Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a brand new season and another empowering episode of the Unstoppable Singer podcast. I am your host, singer and vocal coach, Danielle Tucker. The Unstoppable Singer is a live interview style show where we dive into the lives of real life professional singers. And these singers have had achieved incredible feats in their careers. And we like to explore the challenges and the triumphs that come with a life under the bright lights. And we learn what being unstoppable truly means to them. So if you are passionate about music and the stories of remarkable artists, then you're in the right place. Stick around because I'm going to jump right into it and introduce you to my amazing guest tonight. I am thrilled to introduce the extraordinary Heather Youmans. Heather's journey in the world of entertainment has been nothing short of remarkable. Hailing from sunny San Diego, California, she has graced both stage and screen across the United States, leaving her indelible mark in the industry. You may recognize Heather for her unforgettable appearance as the tap dancer on the inaugural season of Fox's sensational hit show, I Can See Your Voice. Since then, her star has only continued to rise. Heather's powerful vocals have provided the backdrop for some of the biggest names in music, including Gwen Stefani, Blake Shelton, Brandy, Rita Ora, and even members of the legendary Earth, Wind, and Fire. But Heather's talents aren't confined to the studio. She has taken her captivating performances to stadiums and arenas, thrilling audiences at NBA, WNBA, MLB, and NHL events. Her dynamic voice has also found its way into the world of network TV shows and hit movies, adding her magic to productions for Fox, NBC, Disney, Hulu, Apple, and Netflix. So without further ado, please welcome Heather to the Unstoppable Singer podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me on. That was so much. It was
That's all you, lady.
It's crazy hearing somebody else like talk about you in this type of format, because like for me, I feel like I'm so in the day-to-day of what I do and like executing whatever that is, that I oftentimes like don't look back at, you know, where I've been and you know, why I'm where I am today. So that was a moment.
Good. I'm glad. I hope you take it in because it really is all you. And I think it's really important that we hear that sometimes, you know, because we don't often take the time to like really, you know, summarize what the big picture's been for us so far. But it's definitely something to be really, really proud of and something to, you know, use as a springboard just going forward in this incredible journey that you are on. I can't wait to get into it with you. Before, let me give a little disclaimer, though. There is a drum lesson going on the wall right next to me. So I'm in a little bit of a debate, but hopefully, you know, we're fine. We've dealt with drummer before. All right. So Heather, tell me, you've had some big things going on already at the beginning of this year. Tell me what you're up to.
Yeah, so I started 2024 on stage in Chengdu, China, ringing in the new year. And we did the whole countdown thing. There was an orchestra. I just finished a round of touring with Disney concerts throughout China. And that was our New Year's Eve stop. And it was just such a magical moment, definitely in my like top 10 favorite shows that I've ever done, just to like hear everybody in the auditorium just buzzing. And you know, half the time when my castmates were talking to the audience in Chinese, there were 4 US based performers singing, but 2 local singers that are just incredible, and they would talk to the audience and I had no idea what they were saying. And I found out they were asking members of the audience to come up and share what their hopes and dreams are for 2024. And there were some special answers. People were able to translate after we rang in the new year. But it was just one of those really magical experiences where you could just like feel the energy in the theater. And we were all pumped for Act 2 after we rang in the new year. So it's been a wild journey. Definitely one of those surreal moments.
Yeah, I bet. Now you're just getting back, so you've got to be jet lagged from this trip.
Yeah. I'm 3 days into being back in LA. The first few nights were really rough. I finally slept through the night last night, and that was really great. So I can be coherent here with you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's wild. Going and touring in a different continent like that, where the time zone is like so opposite of LA, and just like adjusting to that and adjusting to the weather and the dryness and, all kinds of things. It was definitely eye-opening and a learning experience for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. So now that you're back in the United States, what is on deck for you now?
I'm currently 3 days back into LA, and I'm rehearsing for a show, a concert that's going to be at the Getty Villa for 3 nights in February. So I went to rehearsal, very jet lagged yesterday. Thankfully, I got the day off today. But it's I work with this musical comedic troupe called the Trubies in Los Angeles, and it's made up of incredible award-winning comedians that you've seen on like TV shows that also have incredible voices. And then there are people like myself. I'm a professional singer, but I also come from the musical theater community, and that's where I got my start. So we're putting on a concert that's also quite humorous. And it's like a little like spoof on like Greek gods and goddesses time to Valentine's Day. So jumping right back in and singing and doing sessions in LA and, lining stuff up now that I'm back home.
That's amazing. That's great. That sounds like a very unique show. I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be funny.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah, love it. Let's go back in time so we can get a feel for what your origin story is and what your musical journey's been like. What is it that led up to such an incredible professional career for you?
Well, I'll start from the very beginning. I come from a very musical family. My mom sings, my dad plays drums, both my brothers play saxophone. One is a professional saxophone player who just finished up his contract, in the U.S. Army in the band there. Okay. So very musical family, and it was like really obvious early on to my mom. I would match pitch and stuff like that and make her pull over the car so I could go sing to the horses. It was pretty obvious I was a singer. My favorite is I would read, or instead of reading the book at story time to my grandma, I would sing it. She would go, "Your turn," and then I would sing it. So, I mean, all signs pointed to singer, performer. Yeah. And I grew up performing in theater in San Diego. San Diego has such a great theater community. Mm-hmm. And coming up in Vista, there's an incredible venue called the Moonlight Amphitheater. And that's kind of like the epicenter of everything that goes on in North County, San Diego. So I feel so lucky to have grown up in that community. And, I started working in theater when I was 10. My mom just took me to an audition, and like any 10-year-old, I was really excited and very terrified. But once I got up there and did it, I was stoked. I played Amaryllis in The Music Man at the Lawrence Welk Resort Theater, which is still up and running and putting on fantastic professional theater in San Diego. And then it was kind of like off to the races from there. I worked in musicals and plays, and, I was a child actor. And then I found my way, as I was in Los Angeles, into the recording studio. And I have a really awesome kind of like lifelong relationship with Studio City Sound in Studio City. The owner is like my LA dad. That's what I call him. Shout out to Tom Weir. It was Tom that saw something in me and started throwing me into sessions when I was 15, 16 years old, working with clients. And it was just a progression of that. And I'm just thankful for those like early years behind the mic that made me realize that, you know, session work is what I really love to do. I'm a stage performer, you know, given, you know, how I started in the industry. I always will be. But, you know, I remember walking into that studio, I think I was 13 or 14. And I went in for like an open call for like a new musical. And they were just using that space to cast it. And so the studio owner had like an affiliation with it. And I walked out of the studio, got into the car with my mom, and I said, I think that's what I want to do.
Wow.
And, you know, it was like a moment, you know, sometimes you just like shrug those moments off, but it was really like a defining moment for me as a singer. Because my mom had, I remember for my birthday when I was 11, she was like, I want to take you to a recording studio. And, you know, we practiced a song, and I forgot what it was. I don't know. It was maybe some like Hero by Mariah Carey or something crazy for an 11-year-old to be singing.
Right.
I love my mom.
No big deal.
Yeah. So like I remember she got me studio time when I was 11, and I like really enjoyed that a lot. And you know, it was just this progression of in time that it took for me to realize that, you know, that was home. Like I feel more at home in the booth than like anywhere else to this very day. And yeah, I just kept it going. And, you know, I've always continued to work as an actor in musical theater and as a session singer and as a live singer and performer in Los Angeles. And the journey has been a little crazy. Like when I was young, I had the chance to be the opening soloist for a UNICEF benefit concert, and the headliners were Sting and Natalie Cole.
Whoa.
So here I was, this 13-year-old, and sitting backstage, and they like came back, and I like shook their hand and like met them. And I remember seeing Sting on stage during the UNICEF event, like after I had sung, and I was standing, it was at the Beverly Wilshire. And I was standing on this like big staircase there, and, you know, like everybody else was like in like the room that I could see in the distance, like the stage. And Sting was like singing and playing bass. And I thought, I want to do that. That's so cool. And it was literally like months after that I picked up bass and started learning. But it's like those defining moments that really like shifted my trajectory as a musician. Yeah. And then from there, I mean, it was just like I mentioned, the day to day. I feel like each day it's like this like little step after little step, hoping that something will work, and, you know, that you'll connect with more people that believe in you. And, you know, for the people in my circle that just have always believed in me. And I love to gas up my friends. That's like my favorite thing to do. Like I take so much joy in doing that and paying it forward, because there was a lot of people early on in my career that just believed in me a lot. And not that like, and it wasn't because like there was something in it for them or any other reason. It was just because they wanted to. And just the pureness of that, I think, is so special. And that's what kind of brought me along my way. And I'm literally still so early in my career. I mean, I'm 31. And even though it feels like it's been a long time, because 10 to 31, 21 years, there's still like so much more in the future. And that's really a really, really exciting thought. that I can grow into new opportunities, especially as a session singer. And I feel like it's similar as an actor. Like there are new voices and new roles that you can age into, and different sides of things to see. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I ended up meeting my husband through the music industry in LA at that very same studio that I walked into in 2005, I
Yeah.
think. And we met in Studio A. He was my guitar player for a minute. Still is, but I want him to be when he's willing. He's incredible. His name is John McLennan. And yeah, we've been married for over 8 years now. So it's crazy how, just following what you love and your dreams and your passions can just help you find people and experiences that are just so like life defining and just enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've definitely gotten your money's worth out of that studio. That's amazing.
It's like a big Italian family.
Yeah.
Like whenever I would go there during college, like I would do all my classes like in college, and then I went to Long Beach State, shout out to the 49ers. The mascot, not the team. But I know we're in Super Bowl season. But yeah, I would go up after my classes and I would stay there all night into the early hours of the morning, like 1 a.m. And then I would drive back to Long Beach. And whenever I would walk in the door, the owner would be like, do you want some Italian food? Like, you need to eat something. And that's just the vibe. I mean, it's a really special place because it's independently owned and run by this incredible family. So you never go hungry there. And I've just met some pretty incredible musicians and people. Like the drummer that I grew up singing with on a lot of sessions, who was like a first call drummer there, is now on tour with AC/DC. And Josh Freese, who's another drummer who I grew up, singing on tracks with, he's on tour with the Foo Fighters. So it's kind of amazing to be around like that sort of musicianship when you're really young, because especially drummers, you just learn so much from them instinctively. And the drummer that's on tour with AC/DC, his name is Matt Logg, and he also played on the Jagged Little Pill record with Alanis Morissette. And like people like Matt have always been like a part of the same crew, and like just looking on from afar, like as I kind of came up and have been doing my thing. And we've had like great chats, but it's there's a lot of camaraderie across the board, at least in my experience with session musicians, whether it's singers, drummers, bass players, guitarists. I think that's like a really special part of our community in LA. And I know with everything that happened with COVID, it was, the whole like rhythm of going out, and just being in person with people, kind of came to a halt, hoping, for more connection as we continue to grow out of, this new normal. I don't know if I like that phrase, but like we definitely had like a shift in, how we experience community now in Los Angeles. But for the community that's here, and the people that I've been able to confide in, like I just feel so lucky to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I want to dive more into the session work and talk about that. But before that, I want to reflect on just your overall journey and having this kind of epicenter of this recording studio. So many things that have come out of it, so many seeds it planted for you, the spinoffs, all of it. And it really makes me think about all the stories that I've heard doing this podcast, that so often when you're not in the music business, you hear the term making it or getting discovered or big break, like there's some sort of finish line within the whole thing, right? That, like there's a destination in this business as a goal, I guess. But what I have found over time is that when I talk to singers and musicians about their journey, the reward is always the journey itself and the relationships that you've picked up, the opportunities that have sprung from different situations, and it's just such a wonderful experience to just go back and think about those things and like you said, reflect on the friendships that you have, you know, curated over the years and just the wonderful things that people have poured into your life. And I mean, you know, it sounds like you feel the same way that it really is. It's all those steps in the journey that's making it. That's what really is the reward.
It's such an interesting phrase, making it. It was something I was thinking about a few weeks back when I was on an off day in China in between Disney concerts. And it's
Mhm.
I don't think it exists. Like
Yeah.
it's like never ending, right?
Mhm.
And there are moments where it feels like it's making it, or it's, booking a really great gig, that you've always wanted to do.
Mhm.
But, as I was on tour and I was, just out and about, it's funny how, like, going to a completely different country can give you a lot of time to meditate.
Mm.
And I just thought about, okay, what's next? Like, what's on the vision board? I need to keep dreaming. And I think, to your point, making it suggests that there's a finish line
Mhm.
when really I don't see any finish line. And some days it
Yeah.
can be pretty daunting.
Mhm.
Um, and other days, I don't know, I guess like the wins and the excitement and the moments and the people and the memories really just make me forget about that and
Mhm.
make the journey. It's the whole, like, journey, like, aspect is so tricky because the journey can be so trying at times,
Mhm.
where it's really hard to know how to put one foot in front of the other and what direction we want to go in. And I think for me, it's like, and then one aspect of that is like, what gigs, I want to do next. And, what is that going to look like? And then another aspect is like, how do I continue to put my best authentic self out there as a
Mhm.
creative and a singer?
Mhm.
Um, I think, and I think it's easy as session singers to kind of like fall into this because, we're supposed to be chameleons and that's like so much of what we do.
Mhm.
And I've kind of always been that way as a singer, even from like the early days when I was, training when I was a kid. I would always want to be across like all these different styles. And there was something cool about the challenge of mastering each one. But,
Mhm.
in being a chameleon, it's like at the same time, like I'm always thinking about how do I create the most authentic brand of what
Mm.
I do.
Yeah.
And what is that? And I feel like I'm constantly trying to discover that, you
Mhm.
know, and of course that's a mandatory. I'm an artist as well, and I write and record a lot of my own music, and I have new music coming out this year. Yay!
Yay,
Now that I'm
yay.
back in the US. Um, but as an artist, that's a mandatory to, you know, be able to express yourself in the most authentic way, through your voice and your writing,
Mhm.
and your emotion. But as a session singer, I think that's a very interesting challenge. So people know, yes, this person does X, Y, and Z, and they're across, all these different types of singing and genres and styles. But, like they're best at this, or they're really known for this, or their voice is this,
Yeah.
without like putting a boundary on it. That's like the craziest thing because, like, I'll give you a really good example. I'm known for having like a rounder, like huskier, beltier, like it's just a thicker thicker, warmer voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people could guess that from just hearing me talk too. So when I was on the road with Disney, I was the belt track. So I sang like all the Elsa songs. I sang like Pocahontas, like Colors of the Wind, in addition to like all the ensemble stuff. I sang like the Beauty and the Beast, like the Celine Dion version.
Mm-hmm.
And, in our last city, our musical director, who's fantastic, shout out to Steve, he let us pick songs that we didn't sing in the show for our
Mm-hmm.
final sound check.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it's funny because like people like really think like I just like surprising people. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked like Part of Your World and did like the full like Ariel voice. And like, it's funny, like my longtime voice teacher from San Diego, like literally was the definition of an Ariel voice. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's just doing an impression of my vocal coach that I took from for like 15 years. So just to see like the look on people's faces though when you do something so different, like it just reminded me like while you're trying to, brand yourself, never put yourself in a box too much or
Mm-hmm.
like have self-limiting thoughts or beliefs about what you're capable of because you might surprise yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just something to I don't know, think about, ponder as a session singer.
Mm-hmm.
It really is endless. Like it's an endless challenge. Like I like to think of it as a challenge to figure out how to do something or what I want to do next, what really inspires me, and to sing with people that inspire me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've touched on this a lot um, throughout this show that finding your authentic voice and just, constantly exploring, yourself as an artist. Um, I think that with session singing, having to be a chameleon, I kind of compare it to doing covers in a band. If you're a corporate singer or something like that, you have to be a chameleon all the time. But I think it's an amazing opportunity as a vocalist though, when you're trying to emulate the sounds of somebody else, you're simultaneously discovering elements of your own voice that you might not have otherwise even tried to tap into. And so those gears in your voice or those qualities in your voice that you discover really kind of go into your, artistic toolbox. They become artistic choices that you can always go back to. And I think it's one of the reasons I mean, as a vocal coach, I really like to have anyone who's an original artist that works with me. I like to have them do some study, on some cover songs and explore their voices that way too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Mhm.
just picking and choosing what we like from different people. I think if we're talking about artistry,
Mhm.
to begin with, like that's always a really exciting thing for me. Like I'm thinking about like what playlist do I want to put together this year just to
Mhm.
increase like my like vocal vocabulary, not only like
I love that
stylistically,
idea.
but for like runs and all that. And usually if it's a genre that I want to increase my vocabulary in, I'll hit up a friend who like
Mhm.
slays that genre.
Yeah.
So that I can just get better acquainted with it. And the best thing to do is just use our ears. And
Mhm.
then it's funny that the whole like our whole concept of sound is like, especially with like emulations or exploring other styles and other choices and other parts of our voice, that perhaps are very different from what we usually do. Like our perception of that, like when we sing it, the way we hear it is so different. And
Mhm.
so what I've had to do in the past is if I'm testing to see if I could get a particular sound,
Mhm.
I sit there with a voice memo and I record it and hear myself back as I'm tweaking it.
Yeah.
Because my perception of it in my own ears, it still sounds like me, even though it sounds very different from me. Yeah, that's the weirdest thing, especially when I was like singing. I didn't have the princess track on this Disney concerts tour, but when I was like exploring some of those songs on my own, I was like, how would I sing it? And what does that sound like? Okay, let me record it and hear it back. It's the trippiest thing. And the craziest thing too, like on tour, was for the set show and what I did sing, going from venue to venue, like these were incredible venues, like 3-tier auditoriums. We were singing with 40 and 50-piece orchestras, an incredible rhythm section. We were on in-ears, but no matter what, it's like the sound changed in every environment. So like my perception of sound would change depending on how the theater was built. And it was just, I think we all have it in the back of our mind that like acoustics are a factor, but like this was another reminder that acoustics really are a factor, even if you're on ears. I personally like to wear one in-ear in, and then I have an earplug in my other ear for intonation, just so I can like hear myself in my head a little bit more, but it also lets in sound from the environment as well. But yeah, it was just the whole concept of, something sounding different than, an output. I was really amazed by the differences in sound in each theater. I get nerdy about that stuff sometimes. Kind of have to be, right?
Yeah, it's a great challenge. And I love the fact that you've had so much experience in the live performance space on stage, but also as a session singer. And going back to what you said about, really finding your home in session singing, and, I guess nerding out on what are those, qualities about those opportunities that you love the most. Why do you think it is you found your home in session singing versus the stage?
It's funny because it's like siblings, right? Like or like your children. Like I treat them equally.
Yeah. You love them both
And I
equally.
love them equally. But there's something about being in the booth that's just, it's like I don't have to worry about how I look when I'm singing, or like, like being a performer, and like this, there's so much more that like, I mean, live is a whole other beast. I just like focusing on the vocal and being creative with that. And I do a lot of vocal arranging on the fly because I do or I came up doing a lot of like pop and like contemporary sessions in those types of genres, where you just get thrown into the booth, and with sometimes a demo, sometimes not, and you just learn what you need to sing for the lead, and you communicate and interpret what the client wants, and then they want backgrounds, and you just go, and it's like split-second decisions because time is money. But there's something really exciting and special about that, and creative, that inspires me. But whenever I'm back on the stage, like when I was just out on tour, I also worked on a brand new musical called Dark of the Moon, that was written by some incredible songwriters, Dave Bassett and Lindy Robbins, who have a plethora of pop and contemporary music hits among them. Like Dave wrote Fight Song and like X's and O's by Elle King. Lindy has worked with Jason Derulo, like the Backstreet Boys. Like Lindy is a queen in her own right, and they wrote a musical, and it was incredible. And we had more than a half a dozen performers that had a bunch of Broadway credits among themselves, and I got to originate a role, which was very exciting to have like something written for your voice.
Yeah.
And the music was country folk Americana with some rock influence. Very exciting stuff. But, you know, whenever I'm on the stage like that, like that's a whole other level of creation, like originating a role in a musical. And, you know, I'm also a tap dancer. I think you mentioned that at the top. And when I was in Dark of the Moon, I got to tap. And, you know, we worked with the incredible Chris Catelli, who has a Tony for Newsies, and just really knows that world and just so many other worlds in the, you know, theatrical performing space and TV and film so well. You know, so it's like I could never let go of the live part of what I do because it's just so fulfilling. I love like vibing off of an audience. Like there's something really electric about it. It's just different, you know. It's apples and oranges. I love them both. I try not to favor one too much, but you know, I guess if I had to pick one, it would be being in the studio.
Yeah. Getting that. Do you ever find it challenging to balance both of those worlds? Do you find conflicts when it comes to either scheduling it or having to choose one over the other?
It's I feel like it's a constant juggling act, right? It's just kind of, there's an opportunity cost, you know, for everything that we choose.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, leaving LA for 3 months, you know, is something that I had to think about. And you know, thankfully it was during more of a low season in Los Angeles, like November, December, early January. But yeah, it is a juggling act, and I just kind of have to shift the puzzle pieces around and, you know, figure out what's going to be best for me. And I think it's, you know, people say that you get what you like focus on. And if your focus is too broad, then it can dilute a lot of your efforts in trying to achieve goals in a specific area.
Right.
Can you tell I'm type A? But, you know, it's something that I've thought of a lot lately, because if you have your hands in a lot of things, then, you know, maybe you won't get the focus for, you know, the session side or whatever. So honestly, that's something that I have to do this year, is just to sit down and focus on, you know, because goals like are always changing, you know, like I put together a vision board this time last year, and I'm going to go back and revisit that vision board, and, you know, hopefully, I think I'm going to be able to check some things off the list on there, which is very exciting.
Yes.
But it's like, what's next? And then I have to think about what matters most to me and where I'm willing to sacrifice, because time is not infinite. And I want to make sure that I'm doing projects that fulfill me the most, that I'm working with people that I love, that I'm inspired by, that I learn from. I think there's so much to be said, not only, you know, from the instrumentalists that are on sessions, but also, you know, the incredible singers that, you know, I get to be around on those sessions, and just learning at the music stand. Like, you know, like we're there and we're doing a job and we're delivering what we need to do, but it's like seeing how other people work is very interesting to me. And it's something that I try to like observe, and, you know, take what I can from. And I know that I have my own way of working, and, you know, it's a little different in a more casual pop session versus like ensemble thing for a movie or a TV show, where you're working with a contractor. But yeah, it's putting the puzzle pieces together and figuring out where to put my time, and, you know, what things are gonna make me the happiest.
Yeah. I really can resonate with that a lot. And I feel you on that there are seasons that we go through where, you know, there's a time and a place to be deep and wide with what you're doing. And then there's a time just to be wide. And then there's a time just to be deep. And it's important to have that awareness and really think through it. So I love that you're the type of person who, you know, has a vision board, and is really being very intentional about the choices that you're making. And there's certainly nothing wrong with, flying by the seat of your pants, but that's just not for everybody. And
Yeah. I don't know if I've been trying to, given like how type A I am, I've tried to give myself more freedom or inspire myself to feel more free, not only as a performer, because oh my God, do I feel the difference when I'm not thinking through things too much, but just like in how I'm going about the journey, and allowing myself to like live a little and not be like grinding so hard. And the other thing that like I think it's really easy to be hard on ourselves in this industry. What we do is mentally like very difficult. Just the ups and the downs, and auditioning for stuff and really wanting something, or getting that call back, or being among the final few being considered for a gig, and then or not getting a call. Like that's all really hard. And I think sometimes it convinces us that we need to shift how we do something. And yeah, in some cases it might, but I think it's really important to maintain the authenticity and integrity of what you do and who you are and what your brand is as a singer. Because honestly, like if you had asked me, like, would I be on a Disney tour, even though I've done voiceover for Disney, I've done like a few things for them through the years. I've sung on Disney movies, but I didn't really think of I guess I just thought like, oh, if it's like a live Disney thing, it's just going to be a lot of women that sing all the princess music. And I'm like, I may not be the first call for that, even though I can do it.
Yeah.
But I like never, I was actually really surprised, like when I booked it, and the MD told me that he wanted me because of my like originality in my interpretation. I sang some of the Frozen stuff, and he was like, I'd never heard a version like this. And he's like, I really, really loved it.
Wow.
And I think it was just a moment for me to remember that, like, I don't know, for all of us to remember, like, that is like your superpower, because nobody else can show up in that room or show up behind the mic being you. And I know that we hear this a lot, but like it took me a second to internalize it and to realize that I was on that tour because I just decided to be me and do Heather's version of X, because that's far more interesting than me doing an imitation. Because my singing voice couldn't be far enough from Idina Menzel. So our tones are very different. But sometimes that's okay. And it was an exciting journey. So I think for anybody that's listening, if you ever feel like, something didn't work out the way you wanted it to, or you really wanted X gig, and it's like, don't change like who you are, like keep showing up as who you are, because that is so incredibly unique and interesting. And, somebody's going to come along and hear you doing you and be so amazed and be your biggest fan. So yeah, it's quite the journey mentally.
Yeah. That's really, really powerful. I love that you talked about that and gave the example that you did. Is just incredibly important to think about that, and just to remind yourself constantly, because we are so vulnerable to comparing ourselves, because we see the highlight reels of all of our friends and colleagues that are in the business as well, and all the opportunities that they're having, which is amazing, and of course we're celebrating them on the sidelines, but it's inevitable that it makes you question where you're at with things. But it is so important that you pointed out, just to constantly come back to yourself, because there is only one you, and only you're the only one who's able to do what you do. And the opportunities that were meant for you will land for you. If it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it wasn't meant for you to begin with, you know?
In the
And
most like organic way too.
yeah.
It's so crazy. And like I would say with like seeing the wins like of others and
Mhm.
seeing it, because I mean social media is a highlight reel. Like I use my Instagram like a business card because that's
Sure.
where people go to look, you know, if
Mhm.
to see you know, see what I do as a vocalist and a performer and see if they want to hire me potentially. But
Mhm.
um when and my Instagram is my highlight reel, you know, and sometimes I get really real on my Instagram stories or to my close friends. And, you know, it's like, this is what I'm going through. But, you know, you don't necessarily see that much.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing to remember.
Mhm.
Cause like on, you know, like the other 80% of the year, I'm sitting here wondering, why didn't that happen? What do I need to do? What do I need to practice? Oh, I really didn't like that vocal that I did. Like I didn't like that note, or, you know, like that's what the other 80% of my year looks like, you
Yeah.
know? But people, it's easy, even for myself, it's easy to forget that.
Mhm.
And I think when I see my friends winning, like I want to see them win. And
Mhm.
it's really inspiring to me.
Yes.
And I said at the beginning of this that I really like to gas my friends up because the people that are close to me that are in this like, you know, creative world, they're my biggest inspirations. So when something really great happens for them, I'm stoked. um, and like I'll give a really good example. I have a good friend named Amber Sawyer, and she just you know, sang on a few episodes of Dancing with the Stars. I was so proud of her. It
Mm.
happened while I was in China, and just to see her get her flowers. She's an incredible singer.
Mhm.
It was such a special moment. Um, and you know, when people have wins, and I go, oh, like that would be really cool to do.
Yeah.
Like if I'm inspired by it and I'd be like, I'd like to do that too. Like that would be really awesome. You know, if somebody asked me to do it and I, you know, the opportunity came up, I would say yes. So
Sure.
what I do like on an Instagram or something like that, I'll either screenshot or like bookmark stuff like that. And
Mhm.
then I'll set aside time and I'll go through those bookmarks and figure out, okay, what are the top things that I want to do? And like, how do I get there? And what are the steps? And if I don't know how to get there, I reach out to people that I think might have insight on the steps. But it's not, I think it's easy to reach out to people and be like, who's the contact or what is this? Like that's not really like my vibe. Like
Mhm.
it's just it's less about the contact and knowing about the steps to get yourself ready, because
Mm.
like you attract what you prepare yourself for, and what you
Yeah.
really want and what you put the work behind. So that's like more of, you know, what I ask people about.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah, that's really smart. I like that a lot, and it definitely I think it's just so much more, it's so much healthier for the relationships as well, and,
Yeah.
you know, nobody likes a "what's in it for me" type vibe. That's yucky.
We're all trying to
But
get somewhere, you know, and it's
sure.
like if we can all just, I don't know, navigate everything in a way that lifts people up and
Mhm.
inspires, and you know, I'm more concerned about the human.
Yeah.
Because for me, like the main reason why I sing and why I do music, is for like one of the aspects of that is community. And
Yeah.
there's something about the community, you know, being a musician, um, and singing with incredible players, singers, that just, you know, makes me love life like that much
Mhm.
more.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like for me, it's like community first, you
Yeah.
know. Like
Mhm.
obviously, like take care of myself, make sure I'm like healthy. I mean, that's so hard. I mean, I was so tested when I was traveling these last 3 months to,
Mhm.
you know, stay healthy on all the planes and trains. But when I'm not, I mean, I'm always prioritizing that. But aside from that, it's like for me to really feel healthy in an industry that is already so hard.
Mhm.
like the community aspect like really needs to be there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, Speaking of you, uniquely you, let's talk about the new music that you have coming out. Tell
Oh
me
yeah.
about this.
It's my sad girl era. And I'm here for it because I've traditionally released music that is a little like happier.
Mhm,
That is like my vibe, but I think it's what I'm putting out is more like singer songwriter vibey, like still inspirational. And all my original music for my artist project has a silver lining. Um, but it's more like I'm diving more into the realism aspect of what it means to be happy,
mhm,
what that even means.
mhm,
You know, and a lot of the topics of this new music are, you know, just I think will really resonate with women. That's what I think. You know, I'm just
mhm,
guessing at this point because I haven't put it out yet. But like, there's a song inspired by uh, the relationship that my grandma had with her mom. My family, my own mother, she never met her great grandmother. She
mhm,
wasn't allowed to because there was a lot of stuff that went
mhm,
down, and my
mhm,
grandmother felt abandoned, and it, you know, there's some, I've always like wondered what that relationship was like because it was so shrouded in mystery.
mhm,
And it what came from that was a song that's about it's called All the Advice I Didn't Ask For. And it's not about my own mother. I love my mother deeply. She's amazing, my biggest inspiration. But it's about generational trauma
mhm.
between women in a family and how that doesn't necessarily need to be passed down.
Right.
But just examining that. And then I have another song called Less of a Woman that's about, I've been married for 8.5 years. I don't have any kids. I have a dog. She's the cutest thing. And, you know, people ask me all the time, like, are you going to have kids? And, you know, it made me think like some people like don't want kids. I mean, I personally do.
Mhm,
Some people have kids. Um, and I wrote the song about how, you know, not knowing if you want kids or not being able to have kids, it doesn't mean that you're less of a woman, because I think
yeah.
that's something that can be internalized. My mom thought that she wasn't going to be able to have kids, and then like I showed up. So,
Mhm.
and she thought she was going to have to adopt, and it was like this whole thing. So, um, yeah, it's a lot of it is women's topics, and you know, with some undertones of, you know, I am very, I've said it so many times on this interview, so type A, recovering people pleaser. There's some undertones and themes of that in a lot of what I write as well, because I truly believe that I'm coming into my chill era.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's funny. The people that are closest to me would be like, "You chill, never." Um, but I really do feel like instead of focusing on achieving, um, I'm more, I'm enjoying the view right
Yeah,
now. I think that's the
yeah.
best way to say it. But coming in 2024, I love, you know, singing behind other artists, but doing my own, writing my
Mhm.
own music and putting that out is really a passion for me.
Yeah, that sounds like it's gonna be an incredible contribution. I'm excited to hear it. I love it. Um, it's been amazing hearing your journey, and just you have incredible insights about your journey as well that I'm very inspired by, and I've just enjoyed this conversation so much. And I just get such a, I don't know, a powerful vibe from you, and it really makes me believe that, you know, you're somebody who is unstoppable. I get that from you. So what do you think it is that makes you unstoppable?
Resilience
Mm,
and being an optimist, being able to see the silver lining in every type of situation, even though like in the moment it might be really hard. And I think that's a factor that's contributed to my own resilience, because, you know, people say this all the time, oh, I wanted to quit and then this happened. And, you know, I think it's all about being in it for the long game, right? And it's very easy to say that because this business is so hard, but I think being unstoppable, like if you want to be unstoppable, you have to be resilient.
Yeah.
Even when it is really tough. And I think optimism is one of those ingredients.
Yeah. Wonderful. You're such a rock star, Heather. I love it.
Thanks.
It's been great.
I wanted this to be like less about the work, you know, it's like we could talk about like the ins and outs of the sessions and what was it like working with this person or that person or on this project. But it's like for me, I wanted to like keep it broad, you know, and more about like the mental aspect of, you know, what we do and, you know, what we go through and what makes being, you know, a session singer, a live singer, all that so special. You know, it's for the moments.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for doing this. I am all about that. I am here for that. It's my favorite. This has been a great, inspiring conversation. I'm really, really grateful that you took the time after such an exhausting trip. But I'll let you have the rest of your evening back, but I hope that our paths cross soon. Hopefully in person, not online.
Yeah,
I will definitely be cheering you on from the sidelines. So thank you to
from
you.
San Diego, my favorite place.
We're all cheering for you from San Diego.
I love it.
All right. Thanks, Heather. Thanks to everybody for listening. We'll see you back here next week.